my problem fixed?
Yeah, I think we did. Just now. She had to pay $10 to get hooked up to some Xfinity Wi-Fi thing, but it's working.
I do have a new Wi-Fi password. You guys ready?
I'm gonna write it down anyway.
The new guest password is 724
My main goal is
827 8738.
It's we're live right now. What?
Thank you.
Worried that we were running late.
Thank you, folks.
my main goal is this, right?
Here, am I in the shot if I say something?
No. You're too short.
I know. I can't help it.
All right, there you go.
Hi everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. We are going to get started shortly. So, Wi-Fi. So, it should be okay. What we're going to do is, right after the town hall, we're going to take Jill on myself and Scott Smith, who's going to be speaking. He's an independent scientist. We're going to be taking Jill on a tour of East Palestine. And we're going to be going in a residence house. So you're going to want to stick around even after the town hall. We're going to get started shortly. And thanks so much for tuning in. I organized this because Biden came 2 weeks ago and didn't talk to the community. So I'm so excited and honored. Jill, Dr. Jill Stein, is coming in. So, and she is here. So we are going to get ready and start shortly. So thank you. And most importantly, we will be here for the rest of us.
Do you do anything but sit your butt in that seat? I can't. I have back problems, and I would love to.
6,000 miles alone, and I can still get. I think I've been really big. I think I've been for like 100 hours, and I have. Hey, how are you doing, my dear? It's good to see you. Pretty much never come back. I just miss it from time to time. Sometimes that's a place to be.
Hello in there.
You know the first three words of the Constitution? And I think that's what the government here is. You know, like that. I learned how we father put that in there for a reason. And the reason I think was that we are at the core of this governmental system that makes it run. We got to remind them. I did.
Something goes on, I have my son.
Yeah.
I want to have a meaningful conversation.
So much later.
And they're like, yeah, but we start doing
You gotta get the gun.
Not nice since I was born.
Oh, yeah? Well, this morning.
trying to get involved on it, but like whether it's national or so that
Did you guys get to log in?
Yeah.
Xfinity?
Yeah, she ended up paying $10
Oh,
to something to get connected, and it works.
well, that reminds me. It's my water.
literally like this derail. There's gonna be a lifelong issue. Now, I don't want to get any money from this journalism. I do that on purpose so that people understand my motivation. I'm all over the place. And I feel like this stretches as far as candid. She likes, and that's what works for candid.
Say you're gonna do it, and you don't do it. But they're for life. Every other week,
I might have an ad for that. I'm able to set that up. Would you be interested?
So you're in stream, there are no issues.
No issues.
How many you watching?
26.
We are going to get started any moment. Dr. Stein is giving an interview. Serious shout out to Christina for helping me get this place situated and everything like that. Residents.
Whoa, what happened?
It goes off camera for a little bit.
No, you're not wrong. People like me that probably never hear behind the scenes trying to help out. Takes a lot of courage. Inspiration for me. Whenever you get a chance after this, you can text them as well. So people let me know your availability so that maybe we can talk for like roughly about an hour, if not more. And I can make sure that this stuff gets out, even if it's just for me. I think you can help us. Yeah, I just want to make sure you understand that
See if they're legit.
Usually when I say city, I think
It's been a little hush hush on things. I'm having civil trial and then all combined on the 31st.
You're not live streaming at all?
If you guys want to put yourself on your phone,
My thing is so you look well. You can't see it on
Just to help with the idea is this every day.
Chelsea Clinton, where are you? I think we're gonna get started, everyone.
I know it's not a solution, obviously, I don't have the resources.
Oh, you're adding resources? Just in case anyone wants.
Not in your way with these girls. Okay, guys, we're getting ready to start. Everybody, please take a seat if you'd like. So my name is Marie Mann. Some of you guys may know me. This is my 4th trip here. I am from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I'm a journalist who I started as a journalist doing, interviewing East Palestine and surrounding residents and just connected with so many of you. You are all, I'm not gonna cry. You are all such an amazing community and you have been so welcoming. When I've come here, I did the Medicare for All rally in July, such a great turnout. And I think it just goes to show this is not a political issue. This is a humanitarian issue. And you guys have spoken up and you deserve clean water, clean air, clean land, and you deserve to be bought out if that is what you want. I have interviewed many of you and it has been such an honor that you have opened up to me. I know many of you and I decided to organize this because although I wasn't surprised when Biden came 2 weeks ago, the fact that he did not meet with the community is absolutely egregious. It is unfair. It is unjust. You guys should have been able to say what you needed to say to him. I don't care what his schedule is. It took over a year to get here. That whole day should have been given to you guys, not to 3 pre-selected people. So talking to my beautiful dear friend Chrissy, and just seeing how hurt people were with the fact that they were not given the opportunity and they were totally disregarded as though, you know, their experiences weren't valid. I decided to do this, and I said, you know what, I'm not the president, but at least you guys will be able to talk. You guys can say whatever you like, whatever is on your mind. I'm not going to censor it. This is your event. But I am so honored to have my buddy Scott, who what's my official title?
Well, you're not my public information officer.
Apparently, I don't know what that is, but, it's volunteer, so I can pretty much do what I want. And I curse a lot, but he said that's okay. But yeah, so I'm honored to have Scott here and also Dr. Jill Stein, who is running for president. And, you know, I gotta say, I know you guys are dejected with politics. So am I. I get it. We all are. We are very fatigued. But I think there's many differences with Jill, but also, I want you guys to know she is a medical doctor, but furthermore, she's been an environmentalist for decades.
And she's here.
And she's here. And she's talking with you. And this was not, you know, I had her on the last fundraiser I did for you guys, and she came in like an hour early to listen to the residents who spoke. I've been doing my show 7 years. I have never had someone do that. And then she asked to stay on to meet with Chrissy. So, and then she started calling Chrissy and had Chrissy on her channel. So this is something I have never experienced in my 7 years of covering candidates and covering communities. I have never had someone this involved, and it's amazing. Thank you so much. It means so much to me, and I know to others. So we will get this going. Scott Smith, I think it's your 25th time?
25th, 29th round yesterday.
That's what happens. People like us come out and do these things on our own dime because EPA is an atrocity, and as is the local, state, and federal government.
Amen.
You guys should have been helped from day one. Also, before I forget, we do have cases of water in Randy's truck. So before you leave, grab a case of water. But yes, Scott, take it away.
First of all, I'd really like to thank Marie Mann and Matt Lucine. The two of you getting the word out for this community has just been huge. And I'd also like to thank Dr. Jill Stein, who reached out to me directly, and we've been in touch a couple weeks ago here. And you know, I believe the team I have around me is second to none. You can only get through this, and I have a saying, you leave ego at the door and everybody. I'm the chosen one on the team that goes out and takes all the incoming missiles from Norfolk Southern and the EPA. So I want to acknowledge the team. So first of all, I may not be standing here if it weren't for Rich McHugh of News Nation, Chris Cuomo of News Nation. I want to really acknowledge them because the team that reached out to me is because of the News Nation coverage from Rich McHugh and Chris Cuomo. They're real journalists. They ask the tough questions and fair coverage of both sides. I want to thank the journalists and the media that showed up today. We have where, as you can see with the Biden visit, most journalists are public relations people for the EPA and Norfolk Southern posing as journalists.
Right.
And we'll get into that and talk about that. But I also want to acknowledge a lot of people have come forward on my team. There's over 150 years of dioxins and contamination expertise, PhDs. Everything gets reviewed that I present, and they can't be in the public because of what they do, but they all reached out to me and volunteered their time because of the media coverage coming from News Nation and a few local reporters. So it's really, journalism works, and Joy is really the future of journalism on covering issues for everybody to speak.
Yep.
Also, as a result, I couldn't be standing here, Leslie Pacey and the Government Accountability Project. As a result of News Nation and some other coverage, but principally Rich McHugh and Chris Cuomo, the Government Accountability Project reached out. They represented Edward Snowden as a whistleblower. They now represent me. There is a legal team, and we'll talk about that. Norfolk Southern subpoenaed me in my driveway on October 19th. And we gave them a response. Anybody that wants to see that can see that. So.
And he was at our
Yes.
hotel, and while we were eating dinner last night,
Well,
he's seeing us there.
yes, that's a whole nother thing we can get into. It turns out we're staying at the same hotel where the Norfolk Southern and Norfolk Southern guy running things, I don't want to use names,
Yeah,
but
I forgot to
he
give
had
you
a lot of
heads
the
up.
staff convinced that at the hotel that everything's fine, so we
Isn't that nice?
we're telling the truth out. But I really wanted to take the time to acknowledge and thank, I'm just one person. And I'm so blessed to have the great team around me, and the volunteers. We live in divisive times, and this whole experience with this great community has made me believe in this country again. And there's something going on, as you see, and I talked to Dr., I'm gonna call you Jill now, so you know each other. As I talked to Jill, there's something going on that I haven't seen. People are coming together from all walks of lives. We can get in a room. We don't have to agree on everything, but and we're here to listen today. And I want to get through some new information and quickly, and then have Jill speak, and then we want to listen to what we can continue to do to help everybody. The EPA is a captured agency. There is no doubt about it. And you're here, and I want to talk. Duvina Pujara, D-U-V-I-N-A. P-U-J-A-R-A. Wilmer Hale is the law firm. She signed the subpoena after that I was served in my driveway on October 19th. She's an ex-EPA attorney. If you Google her and go, she talks about equity and gets awards at her college on environment and equity. So I think turnabout's fair play. She can subpoena me in my personal address, and the EPA has been involved in, overstepping the bounds, but that's okay, because I'm going to encourage you to start writing these ex-EPA attorneys that are representing the railroad. So, where is the equity for East Palestine? That's what she talks about. So with that being said, I'm going to go through some of my slides here, and again, when you see FOIA, that's thanks to Government Accountability Project and Leslie Pacey. The EPA will say they're overseeing things, and again, you just reach out to me. You can have the full PowerPoint. It's going to be available in the public domain after that. So Norfolk Southern instructs EPA and other agencies to coordinate with Norfolk Southern rather than, here you have it right here, from Robert Word, Norfolk Southern, Jackie Cole. Hi Robert, I wanted to reach out to you to see if you have a figure of the contaminated locations that can be shared with EPA. Second, I was also advised the agency should be coordinating directly with Norfolk Southern rather than Norfolk Southern contractors. Now, Mark Durno, that chair's from Mark Durno.
Where are you, Mark?
So when we hear Mark Durno and the EPA constantly talk about they're overseeing this, to me, that is FOIA. And I have a saying as you go through this today, when the EPA gives words, and you see, we should need to believe what they're saying in the emails, not what they're saying with the PR people in the community. Now, the EPA started sampling for dioxins on February 17th. And again, thanks to Ashley McCollum, who's here. She sent a link to Leslie Casey. About 3 weeks ago, I still remember, it was like 5:40 on a Friday, and I was going through the link, and buried in this with 2,000 documents was on the EPA. Now, the EPA will say, oh, we're transparent, we're doing that. That's simply not accurate. All the community meetings you've been in, all the meetings with Mark Durno and the EPA, I can't find any evidence that they ever acknowledge this. And why this is important, it's not just the dioxins, it's the fingerprint to the crime scene of where everything derailed. And the dioxin TEQ is 91.9. And that's parts per trillion, and the RSL, or regional screening level, some people say residential screening level, but RSL by the contractor for Norfolk Southern is 4.8, meaning anything above 4.8 requires action. And this is a composite sample, that's an average. I don't mix things together and take an average.
On the
So,
domain later so that you guys can.
and here, and again, this is facts from this is the chain of custody from the Norfolk Southern contractor, lab to generate composite. So that means that now there's 5 samples here. What I do on mine is I get the details from each one. So that 91.9 TEQ, what is that? It's 100 divided by, it's almost 20 times higher than their own RSL for action, and they refuse to test. Again, the EPA is a $12 billion agency with 17,000 employees. They could have tested all of East Palestine homes and residents that wanted to, probably for $300,000, 400,000. That's not even a fraction to the 10th decimal point in their $12 billion budget.
So Scott, are you saying like the EPA, they're taking an average of multiples?
Yes.
Where you're just one test?
They took
one
5, that's correct, because if I took multiples and averaged them, it's fine to do the average, but what was this sample 1? What was sample 2? What was sample 3? They mixed them, had the lab mix them together and took the average.
You did that?
No, if I did that, well, yeah, you could imagine. I mean, the EPA is accusing me of dirty shovels and all the other smearing stuff. It's not worth getting into. So this is very important to understand. And the other thing, when this came out, the EPA says, well, we are transparent. This is waste. This is on-site versus off-site. We'll get that. We'll get to that. But this waste is what was created. It's also the baseline fingerprint. It's like, matching the murderer's DNA to the, blood on your wall that invaded your house, which is now the fallout from a plume. And on-site, the EPA say this is on-site, meaning on-site where the train derailed. I disagree with that on-site, because you can't compare that to us. On-site, to me, means anywhere where that toxic plume deposited the fallout. That's on-site, right? So all your homes are on-site. And to put it in perspective, we have the EPA, and especially those media, there's a July 27th, 2023 email that I wrote to there's a whole email chain, it's publicly disclosed. Most of the media, which are really nothing more than public relations people posing as journalists, will not cover that email. Jennifer Rodriguez, to her credit, the local reporter was at WKBN. That chain of email is me sitting down with a resident, Marilyn Figley. I have permission and her husband Bob, permission to talk about that. And they canceled the meeting. I say right in the email, this is my response. I'm side by side. I will sit down as long as the exchange of information is in reciprocity and reciprocal. Well, now we know why I had to dig and find this. So they only wanted to sit down if I would share all my details with them. And again, what is backwards here is the EPA works for all of us taxpayers and you citizens. I don't answer to them, they answer to us. And that's why we need to restore the accountability in government.
Amen.
And their condescending arrogance is unacceptable. And I just want to, I'm going to go quickly through this because I want to get to questions. And if you've got anything you want to point out quickly, feel free to interrupt me. SVOCs and VOCs. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons are in the SVOC category, semi-volatiles, and VOCs are volatile organic compounds. And this shows they were testing on February 21st, they tested on February 9th. Why is this important? Think of it as the murderer's fingerprint. And here we have, we took a control sample, about approximately 6 miles outside of town, where the plume wasn't. And again, this is where the PhD scientists on my team, one happens to be a meteorologist. He has all the details from NOAA, where the plume was, where the plume was not. So on site, where the toxic plume fallout deposited toxic chemicals, not just where it derailed. I want to make sure everyone's clear, so sometimes there's confusion on site and off site. So if your home's contaminated, if your home has dioxins above 4.8, you're on site. Off site is where the toxic plume fallout was not, hence the control sample. So, and you will see the dioxin TEQ here is 1.7. And that is a little sliver where the plume was not. And this is from the February 3rd. We're now approaching 70. We're constantly updating this, but of the 63 East Palestine dioxin samples, this is where we are. And another thing is the subpoena was served in my driveway for Norfolk Southern. The legal team at Government Accountability Project responded, and we challenged that. We said basically, instead of continuing to threaten me, just file the motion to compel. We'll see you in court with the cameras and make it all public. So I still, instead of the smears and, they thought they would threaten and intimidate, but they picked the wrong guy. So here you have in red is the 4.8, that's the RSL suggested by Arcadis, and I know, again, this is very complicated stuff. We could spend, the rest of the day on this, and if you have questions, you can always follow up with me later. But the accusations from the EPA and the smears, dirty shovels, I'm intentionally taking samples for high levels. But here's the good news. The good news is that over 50% of my samples are below the RSL, meaning that's good. That's what we want. I don't want to find it. So around 46% are, potential hot zones that all we're saying is we need follow-up testing. In the control sample, at Beaver Circle in the town of Columbiana, was 1.7. So these are the data, this is the science.
Yep.
case, and the irony of this whole thing is the Norfolk Southern and the EPA pulled the smear and defamation campaign on me when they wouldn't sit down and share data with me. The irony of this is I believe these results, in a way, limit the liability of the railroad. Because if properties aren't contaminated, they're not liable. So, you know, that's the irony of this whole thing. And this is the sulfur run sediment, and the importance of this is first event February 3rd, second event February 6th. The smoldering burn and dioxins, we believe, I mean, when I say we, I mean the whole expert team around me at this point, always subject to more data, that's where the majority of the dioxins were created. That smoldering burn and the you know, intentional burn created a lot of the volatiles and probably some dioxins too. But there's a third event no one's talking about. They saved the worst for last on the remediation, the dust and the dioxins. And what this was is February 22nd when I was here, the dioxin TEQ in the sediment was 18. It went up to 65 after the heavy remediation on or about April 18th. So this corroborates that. It appears to corroborate that. And one of the other things is, you know, for those of you that have gotten to know me, have checked out the social media, 18 years ago was my whole life and business was wiped out in oil-contaminated floodwaters in upstate New York. It was, the insurance company didn't pay, they declared the manufacturing space in a basement. So I walked the streets with 100 employees convened, and I liquidated my whole life at the time to help the employees. And I started going into these disasters, well over 60, that if I could help communities not have to go through the anguish and stress. And I gotta tell you, the emotions, and there are times you want to give up and you're crying yourself on the floor, but you had to stay strong for the people and do that. And then there was a time, and back then, in 2006, Senator Chuck Schumer was the New York senator, Senator Hillary Clinton, and the Republican George Pataki, but all political parties work together. We can get back to that. It shouldn't matter who, everybody worked together, and we got everything up and running. And then Senator Schumer nominated me for the Small Business Administration Award for, you know, I just did the right thing. I got all my employees' health care benefits. we got back up and running, and then I went down when George Bush, the son, was president. And, you know, everybody from all walks of life. It was about just, to me, in my mind, doing the right thing in disasters. So, and there's, at the top of my Facebook and Twitter, you'll see a press conference from 18 years ago with Chuck Schumer. So, at least I know I'm not going bald. So you'll see him talking about that, and we can get back there. That, you know, we can get back there, and that's what I'm seeing. So encouraged by what I'm seeing here in East Palestine, and I repeatedly say, East Palestine represents that everything is great about this country, but it also represents what's wrong with the country. But the good news is we can highlight and elevate this thanks to Jill reaching out, to Joy and the great team, because the EPA works for us. It's time to expose all this corruption and be done with it. And here's Bold Creek, and here's the purpose of all this, and I'm trying not to get into too much details, it's systematic science, and we've got the third-party lab and the details in the backup, is this is the water of Sulphur Run, which I was basically zero within 50 yards where the plume was at. So 9.6 versus 0.24.
When was that, Scott?
This was actually this was February 22nd, and that right around February 22nd of last year. Now, this is really important, and Christy, I'm going to leave you with these two slides. In fact, I'll drop them off at your house.
Okay.
This is unreleased data until today. So, we talk about mixtures of chemicals. You hear the EPA repeatedly cite a singular exposure to a singular chemical. Disingenuous at best, intentionally misleading. And they want to talk about disinformation. So what we have done, there's something, you know, the TEQ is a toxic equivalency. So you see all these polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, like the different dioxins. In dioxins, it's called a congener. Each congener has a equivalency factor relative to the most toxic. So that's measured in parts per trillion. And then the parts per billion is the PAH TEQs. This is the first time we're bringing this data out because we've been focused on dioxins, but we're focused on the mixture. The mixture of chemicals, there's another great journalist, Chris D'Angelo, that wrote on Huffington Post about mixtures of chemicals. Now, Facebook confirmed to me with the blue check mark, you know, a couple of years ago. I'd never been censored. I got a warning that it's going to affect my stats because like in Leicester, there are no standards for mixtures of chemicals. So this is where the team, Government Accountability Project, and Leslie Pacey has FOIA'd EPA for communications with Facebook. And this ties in on a larger picture, democracy, democracy, democracy. Well, if we don't have our constitutional rights and free speech, we don't have a democracy. Does everybody agree with that? Yeah. So, and then back to this, you see that this is the control from Beaver Circle in Columbiana, PAH-TEQ 30.6. These are the residents, and then this is the dioxin TEQ was 1.7. So all these residents, when it comes to mixtures, that's the PAH-TEQ, and this is the dioxin TEQ. And this is what I think, Jill, talking to you in more detail later, with your, and I'm so appreciative that you're a doctor too. I think this is the kind of stuff that doctors need to see. So it's this combination in the mixtures. And this is Chrissy Hilton right here in red, and several residents I have tracked over time. You can see her. News Nation was with me on site for all of the testing for this. So they have recordings, they videoed it all. They're literally witnesses to this. So May 16th, her PAH-TEQ was 883. September 25th with Chris Cuomo was 2,306. The dioxin TEQ went from 27 to 34.
And they want us to go home.
That goes into this third event, which is the creation and the release from the remediation, because they saved the worst for last. But, and TF, that's you, Tamara.
Yeah, what the heck?
So,
Now, what about that bottle, 37,000?
that's the fig leaf, that's the fig that, their Brushville Hardware Supply.
So they have a higher PAH, but then lower dioxin, so they're not in correlation, so if you
Yeah,
have a higher.
these are not, what this is about is the mixtures. This is about the threshold of being above 4.8 in the dioxin TEQ, and then being above the control sample 3. So this is the mixtures. One is not, so this is just an example. And now this is evolving data. There's more data than this. I did this data, there's things from the team. This data came in quickly. I barely made it here because I had to print. These slides were so important today. I had to scramble this morning to go to FedEx print and get this printed out. There's a lot more data to this, and there are more what I call hot zones that need follow-up testing.
So when a TEQ is low like that, Scott, it's like from instance mine, there's more chemicals than there would be the dioxins, right? When the TEQ is low.
You can't compare these TEQs because dioxins are, a different profile than the PAHs. They're both important. Separate, if you just take the dioxins, this is an issue for follow-up, you just take these PAHs. The point is synergistic toxicity, and the EPA will not talk about it. I always use the example, I've had migraines over the years, a positive example of a synergistic reaction is, aspirin and caffeine. One without, usually works on a migraine, one without the other doesn't. Now on a negative thing, you've got, Dr. Beatrice Gollum's done a lot of work with our vets in the burn pits. Were being dismissed by the government, it's in your head, it's all that. But she was able to go through this and explain every human's different, you don't know what medication. So you can have a singular exposure to a singular chemical, which is the only standards we have, whether it's OHto or anything else. Those are all relevant for this unprecedented mixture of chemicals.
Is the EPA testing PAHs?
They are, but I don't think they're doing these calculations that we're doing with the TEQ. And again, with all the smear and the defamation, my offer remains open to test side by side with EPA Mark Darno, to sit down with them on behalf of the community at any time, as long as the exchange of information is reciprocal. With that being said, the EPA reports to us, and they're continuing to withhold to the Government Accountability Project 2,000 documents with my name on it.
Now, has the EPA tested, or is it the contractors of Norfolk Southern tested?
Thank you, Chrissy, the contractors from
The
Norfolk.
EPA has not tested.
Well, they say they oversee the contractors. They will say they oversee. Remember my opening slide?
Yeah.
My opening slide in their own email, is the EPA overseeing them?
Yes.
In the early meetings, you know,
Yes,
Mark
Ashley.
would say,
I just want to let everyone know, early on I had a conversation with CTEC. I asked them because they were in the area and they were doing testing, we had to be on a waiting list. I didn't like the access agreement. I said, could I get my home tested and I will pay you guys to test my home? They told me they do not work for anyone other than rail lines and pipelines. So they're only working for these people. So that's a very good point to pay attention to how they're testing this, and we should be able to test with the same company they're using.
Exactly. And I'm open, I make it your contractors, and I put it in writing and email.
That's Mark Durno calling you.
I welcome them here. So I also want to say, in 18 years and over 60 disasters, I get the question, East Palestine, you know, I also go in and deal with harmful algal blooms, which are a growing problem with climate change. And other than cyanotoxins, excuse me, cyanotoxins, every chemical, this East Palestine is like all 60 disasters other than algae blooms. Why? Because you had the smoldering burn of PVC, you had all those chemicals, you had other things on that rail, you have you know, oil, SVOCs, diesel. So why East Palestine is different, and from what I've seen over 18 years, it's like all these disasters bound up into one. That's very important, and that's why mixtures of chemicals are so important. Many times in these other disasters, you're dealing with a handful of chemicals, so a singular exposure to a single chemical has some relevance.
and that would, I would think, explain a little bit with different symptoms. I mean, you got a loved one, or you yourself might have been taking metformin for your sugar, or somebody taking high blood pressure medicine, mixing it with that. So you have, that's, you know, these different symptoms, and you wonder why.
No, and I volunteered to do this, so I don't need sympathy or anything, but I never had bloody noses or my nose. And when I was doing heavy soil testing, I had bloody noses, I had to have my nose cauterized. I felt all the symptoms. Not one person I have met with do I think is making anything up whatsoever.
Thank
And that's the other thing.
Thank you.
Is the PR firm coming from the government and the railroad, unfortunately, have done a very good job in dividing the community. Just like our vets, about 30 to 40% had symptoms, and didn't. Just because somebody doesn't have symptoms doesn't mean they need to be demonized. Just because somebody does have symptoms, they don't need to be demonized. In the Government Accountability Project, we'll get to those cowardly trolls that hide behind names and bully the community. I promise you. They've already identified a few, but we want the trolls to keep, and some of those trolls might be tied to some of your local elected officials.
They are.
Yes.
Yeah, have you correlated this data with the public water commissions with the stormwater protection plans by any chance? Seeing how that they're not releasing that data?
We're open to sit down, but they, you know, we would love to sit down with transparency and share in a reciprocal way. I mean, I'd love to, but instead of sitting down and being professional and respectful, they want to go on smear and defamation campaigns.
Okay, so the public water commissions as well won't give you that data, is what you're saying?
We you know, we've reached out a couple times, but you know, I'm glad you asked that. So
Yeah.
And also I've got 3 more slides. I'm going to talk a little bit about Time Magazine and the Associated Press. So we spent some time interviewing with Time Magazine, and this is what I talk about journalists
Hi, Mark.
or that are public relations
Oh,
officers.
you should put him in his chair.
Yeah, so actually, yes, we'll put him in his chair. So Time Magazine did a piece on Mark Durno. And one of the people from Time that was on the ground went on a podcast and said,
Hey, you're not
90% and said 90% of the community is fine. But here's what's shameful. You got Time Magazine, mistrust of the government in this largely conservative region of the Appalachian foothills has complicated agencies. That is shameful. This is not about politics. We need to get back to the point where we can sit down, Republican, Democrat, Independent, all walks of life. We should be able to talk to each other. We should be able to agree that health and human health matters along with the environment. Everyone should be able to agree on that. If somebody challenges you on that, then they really don't care about the human rights. So this is what comes out of this. This is Mark Durno. To hear and see the constant negative information being put out about our program and our agency is frustrating. Well, the gaslighting, the going into residents and telling them and then this is media malpractice because they interviewed. It's media, and these reporters, they shouldn't call them. The reporters that do stories like this should refer to themselves as public relations opinion writers for the EPA and for the White House. They should not refer to themselves as journalists. That's why another thing I'm so optimistic is the independent journalists like yourself, Joy, that are getting this story. And this is why I'm so appreciative. News Nation and Rich McHugh and Chris, they ask, I welcome the very tough questions. I just want to be covered fairly, just like everyone. I welcome it.
He forgot to tell him the reason we mistrust him is because we had to tell him how to do his job.
Here's my last slide. Now there's tax exempt. So on February 8th, and for those of you, especially media here, you go to my YouTube channel, go to my Facebook, go to my Twitter. This is not me, it's not my opinion. These are their own words from on February 8th, 8 days before Joe Biden showed up here. Michael Reagan, EPA administrator, and White House Center for Environmental Quality Chair Brenda Mallory. They speak. Brenda Mallory from the White House talks about their partnership with Mom's Clean Air Force. Now, I'm all for the words that Mom's Clean Air Force and all that said, but is this a clever thing? So, I don't know, is that for openly saying about a partnership? And then they cherry-picked 3 residents. And in this video that especially media, you watch what they're all saying on February 8th. You watch what the residents are saying after they come out with Biden. You make your own determination. This is not my opinion. Why were all these other residents, those excluded from the meeting?
Right.
Well, Joe doesn't have enough strength.
Yes.
Scott, can you talk about the testing that you've done in Darlington Township at all?
Yeah, like your house?
Yeah, like our house,
Sure.
Shirley's, that, because we've been told that,
Everything's fine.
yeah, everything's fine, and I think that's very valuable for some of the other people that are here today who have come
Okay.
from this area.
Yeah, and in Pennsylvania, we have seen fingerprint that appears to match with what that railroad, what I call the buried documents. We could spend another hour on this, and I try to be as efficient, as comprehensive as possible. But I'm glad you said that, Lori. We can tell you for a fact that Darlington and these Pennsylvania areas were impacted. It may be that the controlled burn had more of an impact on Pennsylvania. And everything I always say, it's always subject to additional data coming in, because you literally can't have enough data.
Right.
And also furnace filters. Mark Durno, instead of taking a biopsy of your lungs, it gives you something of what you've been exposed to. You can't draw definitive conclusions like you can with soil and water. But it's better than nothing to see what you've potentially been exposed to and what you've inhaled. Any other questions? And I'm gonna, yes.
Yeah, I have another one. So, have you heard anything from like the U.S. Army Chemical Corps or anything like that? Seeming how they're experts in a lot of these things on like different levels, even with warfare.
I'd welcome any government agency. I'd welcome them, and I'm openly inviting them to test side by side. And anybody can go out and retest anything with me. And if I've made a mistake or something, I will be the first one to publicly correct it, standing next. And it's open. But instead of taking me up to meet with me and exchanging information in a fair way and doing testing side by side, they resort to nothing but smears and defamation.
Right.
So with that being said, is there any more questions?
I got one,
Okay.
not a question, but something you don't think about, like the furnace filters. everybody in here in this room's driving a car, you got a cabin air filter in your car. A lot of people don't change them filters. I had a mouse in one, so I'm used to changing them. But if none of you guys change cabin filters, that's out. One furnace filter in your house is in a controlled environment. When you're in your car driving place to place, that cabin air filter's got a lot of information in it. You know, so something, be careful with that when you do change it. Don't be breathing
I'm
it in.
glad he just said mouse, Lori.
I know, oh, yeah.
You wanna
Yeah.
say that real quick?
So, we all live in the country here in Darlington, you know, we live in an old farmhouse, and I don't know about the rest of you, but we always have mice. And since last year, in 1 year, we have caught exactly 2 mice. All winter, we had no mice. We've had no mice. And, you know, so I can't explain that. Other people have reiterated the same thing to me, you know, and it makes sense because mice, who are our counterparts for testing, are the ones that live in the ground and in the dirt and in the grass and everything. So, you know, is there a correlation? I think so. You go to the simplest things.
Well,
They
you know,
breathe the
Lori,
air.
you might wanna watch, because if you say that too loud, Norfolk Southern is gonna bill you for extermination fees. They're gonna say they did you a favor and charge you for it.
Okay, well then I'll bill them for trying to murder my husband. How's that?
Yeah.
Well,
And then this gentleman here, I wanted to respond to what he asked you, Scott, about, you know, has anybody else, has he tested this or compared this? All we have, all that, at least what I'm aware of what we have, is from, you know, the golden source of the testers that Norfolk Southern is paying for.
Yep.
And spoon feeding.
Yes.
That's what we've got. That's all we have to go on, and anything we get anywhere else is completely dismissed. Scott is the only one who is standing up and bringing data. We don't have any other source to
That's
get
right.
it from. So we would love for anybody who wants to come in, but nobody's doing it. Why? This should be a breeding ground for people to learn things, and environmentalists and professors and, you know, yeah,
We're all guinea pigs, so
they
they
should
might
be
as
there,
well
and
come
they're
in.
not. This is
Probe
just
us.
crazy.
I asked those because I think it's quite telling that they're not releasing a lot of this stuff or getting even like the U.S. Army Chemical Corps involved even, especially since they've dealt with this in applications that we can't even imagine, you know?
But they're acting,
Exactly, yeah.
they're acting like they don't know what to do with this. We've never experienced anything like this, and that's nonsense. That's
Yeah.
nonsense.
I can't believe they haven't been in here
They
to
won't.
assess the
They won't
cracks.
come in because they know they're
Yeah.
going to find horrific contamination.
And the only one stepping up has been Scott,
Put your hand up higher.
and we thank you.
I'm stubborn.
Put your hand up higher.
And I wanna close with this. I wanna say hi to Hank Bagwell and Sky Wallen, who were
Yeah.
here earlier this week. Hank is the one that came up with this, he did this all on his own, the guy in the blue shirt, short documentary.
It's wonderful.
So, what I'm doing is, anybody that comes to listen, I have a gift for Jill. Any high-profile, elected official, anybody running for office that reaches out to me, and since we both do, I believe, live in the state of Massachusetts, like I made this invitation earlier this week with, you know, RFK Jr. This is a blue shirt for you to join me at any time on the ground in Massachusetts to go test. And I hope you do that. And what the blue shirt really represents is going into a community and listening. That's the condescending arrogance sitting on Zoom calls coming from the EPA and all the PR people running the show. That's got to end. The blue shirt represents going in, having a great team, leaving ego at the door, and bringing people together to find out what's really going on with contamination.
And blue shirt is working class. That's what's up. So thank you so much, Scott. I do want to share quick. If I do have cards over there. If you haven't seen, I kind of sort of bombarded Mark Durno, and by that I mean I did. I asked him if we could meet because I was traveling back to Harrisburg. It was like my second or third trip. And he said yes, and then when I refused to give my questions to his assistant, he started ghosting me. So I just showed up. I was like, hi, Mark said he was gonna meet with me, and now he's ghosting me. So I just walked in with a camera, and he's like, I prefer you turn the camera off. did, but I kept recording. So he didn't say audio. So in Ohio, like many of you know, that's a one-party consent state. I got 91 minutes sitting with him in his office, saying the most egregious things, because he didn't know I was recording. So he revealed a lot. It's on my channel. A few of the things I took away was, he said over and over, that's above my pay grade. Over and over. He said, and I was with Christina. I wanted a resident there. And thank you to Christina for all your help as well. You've been amazing. So, you know, and little Eddie was there as well.
Oh, yeah.
And we were talking, and, you know, he said things like, you know, we're waiting for more independent testers. And I said, by independent, what do you mean? And he goes, well, we're reaching out to people. No. EPA Connections is not independent. That is not what that means. Well, I'm gonna show you the shirt I was wearing when I went in to talk to Mark. And sorry about the language, but I think it sums everything up. This is what I was wearing on a shirt when I went in to see Mark.
I know that shirt.
Because I was like, you know what? I'm not here to play.
Can you read
So,
it? What's it say? Go ahead.
no F's given. Big Norfolk Southern logo. So I'm pretty sure he knew I was in there and wasn't gonna take any crap.
Yep.
But some of the other things he said, and it's all on the recording, are, I said, well, how come you're trying to say people are sick because of PTSD? That's what he said, as though it's psychosomatic, and which is incredibly dismissive. I said, well, how come you say that people are sick because it's from early exposure, and every time I come here, I am sick as a dog. Please explain that. He's like, could be meat, it could be garlic, and after learning about Tamara and her garlic, now I know.
Could be garlic.
I haven't eaten any of her garlic. So, I literally, the second time I was here, I lost a tooth.
Wow.
And that has happened to several residents that I know.
Yes.
And I could not believe it. I mean, last time I was here, I had a bloody nose for like 24 hours. I was so lightheaded. I looked back to the video I did at the hotel after I left McKim's. I sounded drunk, like actually drunk. And I wasn't, but it makes you so lightheaded. And I mean, my knees went numb and my legs were like shaking, and you know, and I asked Mark about that. I said, you know, can you explain to me why? And then he was talking about how he lives 45 minutes away. And I thought, well, why don't you live in town with your kids? Why are you living that far? What's the deal? Now they're only doing appointment only. Why? Are you trying not to go into town? And then they're trying to limit speaking with you. And I hear time and time again from residents, you are spoken to. You are not heard. You are not listened to. And that's a problem. And I just hear these attempts at rationalization, and it's like, you know, I would rather you just be honest and say, I don't give an F, than just sit here and lie. That is worse, because you're thinking we're stupid, and you're thinking we're gonna fall for it. So, yeah, definitely check that video out. It's not okay. But in any case, I definitely want to introduce the wonderful Dr. Jill Stein. As I said, she's an environmentalist, has been for decades, and a medical doctor who has been outspoken and an activist and an organizer for so many years about our planet and about disaster situations, chemicals, and also Medicare for all. We all want that, right? So you guys deserve 1881A, which would give you all Medicare for life because of what has happened to you. So thank you so much, Dr. Baker. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm really humbled and honored to be here. this community, I think, is what democracy looks like. You are a model to the nation. Thank you for your courage, and thank you for really showing us all the way, because what's happening in East Palestine is happening to lesser degrees, really all over the place. We're all exposed now to a chemical soup. We have innumerable chemicals in our blood. You can see them in our urine. We all hear about PFAS now, PFAS, which are everywhere, and we all know about lead. We're all hearing now about dioxins. Before that, it was PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls. As a mother, I learned about that these chemicals are in mother's milk as well as in the womb, and I thought, oh my God, what is going on here? And that sort of led me on a life journey where I was a medical doctor, seeing our communities getting sicker and sicker, whether you're looking at diabetes or high blood pressure, heart disease and strokes, and especially, among children. Children were developing, this was like back in the 80s and 90s, children were developing diabetes, and children were developing obesity and new cancers, and it's like, what's going on here? Something is wrong with this picture. And then you have communities that are like the canaries in the mine shaft, the love canals, the Times beaches, and now East Palestine, or look at our veterans and burn pits. Look at the first responders, really all over the place, but in particular in 9/11. In every case, people had horrific, disabling symptoms, and they were told, don't worry about it, it's all in your head, you're stressed out, etc. This is the rule, and it happens over and over again, while the industries that are responsible, like Norfolk Southern, are making out like bandits, and their profits are skyrocketing. Resolution proposed by the workers, did this, and they were prepared to go on strike to protect the safety of these shipments because their staff has been cut by 30% over the last decade or two. And you have two railroad workers who are covering these freight trains that are mile long and more. They can't possibly monitor the safety, and they knew what was going on, and they put themselves at risk and their jobs at risk in order to protect our communities. And Joe Biden and Congress, the Democrats and the Republicans, all shut them down and forced a contract on them that compromised their safety and compromised your safety. So we can prevent this. The problem is that we have a government and two major political parties that have been bought and paid for by the very interests that are harming us. And whether you're looking at the pharmaceutical companies, which are ripping us off, the price of insulin, which has skyrocketed sevenfold over the last decade, people cannot afford. They're choosing between their rents and their medications, and their rents are also skyrocketing as our housing is being bought up by large corporate interests. And all of these players, all of these predatory interests are asserting their power because they have a lot of money, they make a lot of profit, and then they keep buying these changes in rules to make them more profitable and to put our communities at further risk. And I just want to pause for a second to just heap praise on Scott Smith for the incredible science that he is doing. As a citizen scientist, it is unbelievable that the burden falls on him and on this community to stand up and defend ourselves. And I want to give Scott a big round of applause. And as well as the many scientists and organizations that are supporting him, but they feel like their jobs are on the line, so they can't speak out. And thank goodness there are courageous heroes like Scott and everybody in this room. And I want to thank Marie Mann especially for being such a courageous journalist. This is what real journalism looks like. And I would add to that all the journalists who are here today, the news media that is covering this. Thank you so much. And above all, you know, you guys, and Chrissy Ferguson, and all of you who are not, you are being extorted into silence. But it's not working because you know what's going on and you have the courage of your convictions and you really are leading the way forward. I again want to stress that these problems are not rocket science. This stuff is fixable. We can be healthy communities that have a healthy, profitable economy. Right now, it's not a profitable economy unless you're Wall Street and you're in the top 10%. But for everybody else, you know, this economy is crashing and burning at the same time that our misinformed misleadership of both political problems, they are squandering our tax dollars. Did you know that half of our congressional budget is spent on the endless war machine that keeps ginning up war after war, that spends trillions of our tax dollars without doing any good whatsoever? They're killing millions of people, 1 million in Iraq, 6 million that followed that. You know, the people in Gaza and Palestine right now are being utterly slaughtered, basically in order to preserve our, what's called our battleship in the Middle East, which is essentially our control over Middle East oil. This is not good for Palestine. It's not good for Israel either, because it's really mobilizing the Israel's neighbors against it in a very dangerous way. And Joe Biden is now using this as an opportunity to bomb 4 more countries, which is aggravating this very explosive situation in the Middle East, which is why I mention it here. You know, the bombing that's taking place around Iran, they're not yet bombing Iran, but Iran now has a military treaty with Russia. So this could go nuclear. One nuclear armed submarine, and there are 14 of them. One of them alone contains the equivalent of 4,000 Hiroshima bombs, 4,000, which is enough to put the whole world into what's called nuclear winter, and we all go. So I make this point just that we need public interest. You know, Dwight Eisenhower, you know, said, beware of the military-industrial complex. It takes on a life of its own. Well, beware of the chemical-industrial complex and the railroad-industrial complex and the pharmaceutical-industrial complex and the insurance-industrial complex. When, you know, it's not rocket science to say that people are really cynical about all of our government institutions right now because they are inherently corrupt. They all work with this revolving door between industry, as Scott mentioned. You know, we see now that the attorneys working for the EPA were previously working for the railroad industry. And this is the rule, not the exception, that we have this revolving door between industry and not only our regulatory agencies, but also government, you know, in the cabinet and the White House. And it's all one big happy family of elites, economic and political elites, that are really throwing everyday people, working people under the bus and over the cliff. And what gives me hope is communities like East Palestine, that you are standing up and you are leading the way. And working people all over the place, like the railroad workers and their union. People are standing up and saying, this is enough. Our future is being squandered, our tax dollars are being squandered, our health is being destroyed. This is not okay. We are the wealthiest country in the world over all of history. Why is our health, you know, just at the bottom of the barrel? Our health is really bad, and we spend way more money than any other country. Well, surprise, surprise, any other developed country, that is. 1/3 of all of our healthcare dollars, 1 out of every 3, and we're spending $4 trillion a year on this. 1 out of every 3 healthcare dollars is spent on bureaucracy, paper pushing, and red tape in the private industry. If you go to Medicare for All, that's not the case. It's very efficient. Your tax dollars and your private dollars are spent on your health care, not on paper pushing and advertising and exorbitant CEO salaries. So that's just one example. We can do this better, and when we fight against the game of divide and conquer. They're trying to set us against each other, red versus blue, black versus white, immigrant versus workers. They're trying to play this game of divide and conquer because they are quaking in their boots. They know that the truth is out there. We the people are rising up more than ever because we have to. The chickens have come home to roost. We're not going to take it anymore, and we are getting together. And again, big kudos to independent media, all of the media that's here today, because you are the watchdogs. That's why we have a First Amendment. That's why we have freedom of press. Instead of a watchdog media, we now have a lapdog media. And what they do, they're all about careerism. They're all about kissing up to the powers that be so they can get the big interview, get the promotion, you know, and the good salary. And it's just, you know, it's driving us into the ground. So this is what democracy looks like. And I want to quote one person here, Alice Walker, the famous novelist and poet, who said, "The biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with." We have it. East Palestine knows we have it. We're going to use it. So look out, Democrats and Republicans. Here we come. We're going to fix this.
Any questions, comments? Because we're here to
I
listen
have
to the
something
community.
to say. I want to thank Mama Soup Kitchen also for everything she's done for the community. I want to recognize Dr. Rick Stein. If it wasn't for him.
Rick Stein, standing ovation. Come on. Rick Stein, you need standing ovation.
Yeah.
Another thing I would like to mention is on March 6th at 6 p.m., Dr. George Thomas, he's an independent toxicologist expert. He will be doing a Zoom. The Zoom link will be posted. He has performed independent toxicology hazard chemical analyst for government agency, corporation, and academic institutions for over 50 years. He published 21 books on hazard chemicals, been an expert witness for more than 50 lawsuits, and spent hundreds of hours researching the chemicals or the hazards of chemicals contained in the rail cars from the East Palestine derailment. Join us all at 6 o'clock on the 6th. It'll be on Off the Rails and also on the Unity Council.
I have a question from my live stream, actually, if you guys don't mind, for Dr. Jill Stein.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Sue Mama, nice to meet you.
Hi, Sue.
So we're running live right now, and a lot of the viewers would like to know, what is it for this community here to solve the situation?
Great.
What is it that you would do? Because obviously, you know, you are running for president this year. You know, they heard a lot of other parts there, but their main concern is what's going on in these towns here. That is why we're here today, so thank you
Great,
for
thank you.
answering.
Thank you for the question. And, you know, so on day one, the president can fix this. On day one, the president can instruct the EPA to properly protect this community. And that means to move everyone out right now who is at risk. Everyone, and to make testing widely available so that every household, every person can be informed and empowered. Are you or are you not in an at-risk zone? Is your property contaminated or is it not? Is the water underneath it contaminated or not? And we have to err on the side of protection. And there will be some uncertainties, but where there is a potential risk, we need to err on the side of caution and move people out until either it's established that there is no risk, or it's clear that the area has been remediated. People's health needs to be protected. We cannot keep people exposed and at risk. This should not be rocket science, because what's happening here in East Palestine has happened over and over. It should not take 10 years or 20 years in some cases, like in Love Canal and Times Beach. why, we shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel here. People need to be protected right now. Children need to be protected. Elders need to be protected. We need to err on the side of public health, not on the side of protecting the profits. So that's number one, move people out until we have a definite green light. And then I would just also say that we need to take bigger steps to close the revolving door between corporations and our regulatory agencies.
Yes.
We need to be protected.
I did have another question from the live stream. It says Medicare for all. What is the point if the doctors won't help you?
Good one.
We're seeing that.
Yeah, that's happening.
Yes. So the solution needs to be bigger than just having access to health care. Having access to health care is very important, but toxic threats, as a rule, are not recognized. Industry doesn't want to talk about this and doesn't want to look at it. But we're seeing the disaster of lead, which began really in the early 1900s. It took almost 100 years to get the proof. What was the proof? The proof was a body count. That's how we prove. That's how we prove the toxicity of chemicals. We need to protect people in advance. We need a regulatory system that's protecting people in advance. And we also need to teach this stuff. I did not learn this stuff in medical school. I had to go start learning and researching and studying the field. I had no idea what a TEQ was in dioxin. It's all extremely confusing. When I started reading this stuff, I got so depressed. And I just put it away, and I was depressed for months. So I studied years and began working with a physicians group called Physicians for Social Responsibility. We did a lot of research. In fact, we published 2 reports to help explain to the public what's going on here, so that people who are interested have a resource. And that is still on the web. One is called Toxic Threats to Child Development in Harm's Way. You can find it on the web. You can go to Physicians for Social Responsibility. You can download that. And then we did a second piece about 10 years later called Environmental Threats to Healthy Aging. We also had a program to go around to medical schools and actually teach doctors and healthcare providers and teachers and parents, how do you protect yourself? It's outrageous that we have to teach people how to protect ourselves when that's what we're paying our agencies for. So, it's a complex problem that requires many solutions, but we can start to improve it right now. And as president, there's a lot we can do on day one to both protect East Palestine right now, and then to begin to close the revolving door, and also to get money out of politics. Because as long as you got big money pouring in that can buy off political candidates. There's a famous quote from a Supreme Court justice many years ago, Louis Brandeis, who said, "We have a choice between vast concentrations of wealth or a democracy." Right now we got the vast concentration of wealth. 3 billionaires in this country has as much money as the lower 50%, the working class and low income. 3 billionaires has as much as half the population. So we have massively concentrated wealth, which buys its influence into our economic and political elites. They are running the show, and we need to change that. Thank you.
And if I may, I don't know, some of you don't know this, but I actually became 80% blind overnight about 3 years ago. And so before I became disabled, I worked in Medicaid, Medicare, CHIP, and other kind of state and federal insurance programs. And is kind of a popular term, but it's actually technically called single payer. And what that means is the single payer is a government. We shouldn't pay crap. Why the hell should we pay anything? Every other industrialized country gets it for free. And So essentially, what is different about that than what's going on right now? Hospitals declare they are nonprofit and making billions. You are not, like yesterday, I'm disabled. I don't work, you know. I'm on my husband's insurance. Yesterday, I have stage 3 chronic kidney disease. I had to get blood work. I have to get every 6 months. I don't have a choice. It's do I need dialysis? I don't know. I gotta get, you know, the blood test. That blood work, I just got a bill for $823. How am I gonna pay that? You know, and you know how much my insurance paid that I pay for every single month? $14.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, single payer, Medicare for all, that's people like me, the millions of people like me, that is what would help right there. You guys can go to the doctor and they're actually responsible to help you. They are not beholden by these insurance companies who say, let's negotiate. We can, you know, we'll give you X, Y, Z amount of money if you, you know, prop up this medication and it's gonna cost you $700 a pop. There, you take those, you know, big pharma, big insurance, the insurance industrial complex, you take that out of the equation and doctors are forced to become more responsible to help you and treat you and not make bank off of their corporate profits.
That's true.
So, at this point, I want to introduce the most wonderful person in the universe who always makes me cry. But she's the reason that I organized this because she's a warrior and is an amazing person, and we're all lucky to know her.
To have each and every one of you. And we could not, none of us could have got through this without each other. Everything that we went through, everything that we have lost, we have been there for each other. Here's a couple things that I want to say quickly. The first thing is I thank God that I am here from that car wreck. This has to stop. This has been over a year. And I want to speak to the shareholders of Norfolk Southern, Vanguard, BlackRock. We are hurting.
J.P. Morgan.
We need help. We have days with Alan Shaw. We're not getting anywhere. I can't take my family back to that home in May. She can take action, cannot go back. These people that are sick and have cancer, they need out. I am begging you, please help this community. It's not everyone, but the hundreds that it is, help us. Please, you have the power. You could end this today for God. Please help us. We're doing this. We need to heal. We need to move on and we need to focus on our families and our lives. Please do the right thing. Please. It's not just East Palestine. It's Unity. It's Darlington. It's Jimtown. It's Negley. Anybody that is having trouble, please do the right thing. Please. We're running out of time and our health is suffering and our families are falling apart. For the love of God, help us, please. nobody will test for heavy metals. Every lymph node in my body has been inflamed. I've had internal ultrasounds, diagnostic mammograms. Nobody will talk to us about this.
I have heavy metals in my system. I have arsenic, lead, and mercury. My
She's
boyfriend
been
has
the
arsenic,
rare
lead,
ones.
mercury, and a handful of residents have tested. And we've done this out of our own pockets to find this out. We've been told that it might not be related to that. You're eating mercury and fish, and I don't eat fish. So it's not from that. They couldn't explain it. My son has lead in his system, and he's 7. I have been keeping up with everyone in town, and I think I've reached out to most people, or people know me, because I'm trying to listen to everyone. I have everyone's messages that they sent me, all of their cries. I have hundreds of them, people that are further along brooding on us. I have made a list of all the symptoms we're enduring. And there's a big thing that's left out in this that no one's acknowledging and no one's testing. And it is a little bit more difficult because no one knows there were Ford trucks on that train. So this could be contributed to burning batteries in this controlled explosion that they did. That was the second portion of the vehicles blown up. When I go into my home, I have neurological symptoms to the point where the left half of my body goes numb. I can't think. I feel like I have a blurred vision. I have a drunk feeling. It is so extreme to the point where I have tremors now when I go into my home, and I don't want to subject my son to that. And Norfolk Southern has given me the runaround to the point where they want all of my medical, they want all of my testing that I've done. I have given it to them in hopes to save my son from going through anything I've experienced. They have denied me. They have tried to have me do fraud, basically. They tried to say they would just give me money, use it for your points that you contributed to your hotel stay. On the 17th, I'm gonna owe $4,550 just to try to keep my family safe because my boyfriend lost his job and we cannot rent anywhere and we cannot get a mortgage. So we're in a situation where they're not listening to me, and my home in February, before most people start even thinking about testing, I have my test results. February 16th. I have 100 times higher of ethanol in my home. That's contributed to neurological symptoms. The petroleum products that are in my home are so extreme that any resident that comes in, they immediately have headaches. They can't think right. They experience the things I'm saying, and even to this day, we're still having it. And these are just some of the symptoms that I have, if you can read it, I'm sorry. If I've talked to you, if you've said that, I have added these up to make sure that I have an accurate symptom list. And this is what we have so far, with the exception of cancers and kidney disease. Because I do want to make a separate list for that as well, but these are just some of them that you'll read.
Change in moods, skin loss more than normal, sinus infections, rashes,
Headaches, pain in the ears, burning in the eyes, red eyes, burning scalp, numbness in fingers, numbness in feet, tired, weak, chest pains, sore throat, cough, nose burning, nose bleeding, pain in the back of the neck, numb in the neck, shoulder pain, numb in shoulders, stomach pain, heartburn, mouth numb, mouth tingling, lips numb, lips tingling, dizzy, forgetfulness, confusion, drunk feeling, loss of coordination, sores on gums, sores on lips, teeth falling out, more acne, chemical taste in mouth, discoloration of the skin, blood in the ears, tingling in the appendages, tingling on half of the body only, bruising with no explanation, burst,
Capillary,
veins in the legs and face, muscle cramping. There has been, this is just a fraction of what has been going on in East Palestine and surrounding areas. Vomiting, blood in urine, blood in stool,
short spurts of blurred vision, vision loss. I've had significant convulsions, seizures, heartburn, memory loss, jaw pain, tooth loss, joint pain, diarrhea, asthma attacks, seizures, not getting enough sleep, bedridden. There's someone now that is bedridden. And they tested very high for vinyl chloride and benzene. Not getting enough sleep, sleeping too much, intense intestinal pain, tendons in the feet and hands locking up with pain, medications no longer working, not working as they did, neurology, there's Parkinson's. Someone at my age that I went to school with, a friend that has been diagnosed with Parkinson's. I know my narcolepsy, my medication no longer works. I can sleep 20 hours a day.
And exposure to vinyl chloride alone can cause narcolepsy, but that was edited
Yes.
within a couple of days.
And we did test, I tested at 0.94 for vinyl chloride metabolite. I was one of the few that got tested because of Dr. Rick Schei that needs to get into Congress, because that man and you will do that.
Now, we're relocated, so these people in town are living with this.
Yes.
They're having this, they're crying out to people and no one's listening to them.
Are there people that live here that those symptoms are collected just from people that live in
East
Townsville or out?
Palestine,
Is it
Darling.
both?
It's outside too.
Okay, that's what I need to know. So
So-
I'm from outside now, like I left, so that's what I want to know.
And if
I'm
you still are having symptoms, you let
Yeah.
you message.
So Ashley, how far out, what is the furthest that you have talked to radius-wise to get symptoms?
I've made lists like this, and I'm gonna make more to hand out for people to fill these out. We've had someone up to 6 miles away said that they were having some of these symptoms that never happened. They went to their doctor, couldn't be explained. So I have flyers like these that were filled out in March of last year, and the list just keeps going and going. So I'll have people reach out to me. There's cancers that are popping up. I don't even get a hello sometimes on Facebook. It's, my father has cancer now. He lives in town. Are you hearing this? So I'm also trying to work with different doctors. Dr. Haynes, I just talked to her, so I'm going to try to coordinate and see what we can do with this. She was unaware of the heavy metals that could be in the town. So that's very important because we can get help on this, and it could be in our homes.
So can I just go on your Facebook page then, like, for like the, you were talking. Disease.
Yeah, I don't have an accurate enough answer for that since cancer is so big. I do want specific people if they want to tell me, so that way I can have that listed with that, and it would be confidential. It would not be shared with anyone unless they're okay with it going to a doctor.
Scott?
Yeah, Ashley, Chrissy and Jill, all of a sudden in the last few weeks, I've got a lot of reach outs, and people are, I keep everything private unless like Chrissy didn't want me to talk, but stroke-like symptoms, seizure-like symptoms are escalating. And people are scared of, unfortunately, these trolls on Facebook are bullying people, and they're scared, but this is escalating. Are you seeing, questions for you, Chrissy and Ashley, are you seeing this? And Jill, any theories on why all of a sudden, is it some kind of mixture, cumulative exposure that could be causing this?
You know, I'll just say that it's really outrageous that a community has to struggle to do its own health study here. I mean, these are difficult I think it's wonderful that you're doing this and you're collecting whatever data you can, is great. It's outrageous that you are left to do this on your own and to try to figure it out. And it's really hard, you know, it's very hard to say, it's very hard to sort out. You need kind of statistical backup, you need control groups, et cetera. But still, you know, one of the first, which was it? One of the first toxic sites was identified by the people in the community because the children, I should say the parents of the children who had leukemia recognized each other in the cancer specialist's office and they say like, what are you doing here? You know, what are you doing here? How did people in our community develop rare cancer? It was just their suspicion that this is not rocket science, this is not normal. And just getting that data out can help be part of the momentum, build momentum, and having the public see what's going on. And, you know, it just needs to be part of the mix. Don't feel like you have to come up with the explanation for it and why does it hit some people someplace. It's very good to know about that, the heavy metal stuff and the potential source on the train. You know, that's part of the story that I never heard before. You know, so it's things like that that the community can put into the mix here that may be very helpful down the road. And don't feel like you have to explain this now. That's not your job, you know, unless you want to go to, you know, public health school and get your degree and be like Scott, you know. We got enough to get started with here, and at the end of the day, this is a political game, and we have to assert political pressure.
Yeah, I'd like to say too that we did have, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Ashley, for going and gathering this information. I'm a Darlington Township resident and now South Beaver because I've had to move. We went to Darlington Township. We went to a meeting and we asked.
We've been to a few of them.
Yeah. We asked, you know, can somebody do something and get that information? Is there something that township could do to get that information? Yeah. And we were told that we're a small community and they're siding with the EPA that nothing's wrong. Wow. We're standing there telling them we're sick, we're hurting, we're doing everything. And they're telling us that they can't use their resources to help
The
us.
problem with that is we don't have enough residents in Darlington Township and Darlington that are speaking out.
Yeah.
It's just a few of us that attend these meetings who speak out. And we need the other people in this area because we all know that we got hit. And I know that a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And I know that they're afraid to talk about it. But Ashley is willing to speak to people. I will speak to people. I'll give you my phone number. You can give it to people. They can call me. It will be confidential. As most of the people here can attest to, that when they tell me something, it will die with me. So,
But this is our government. This is who we pay taxes to. We do whatever. I went to them about getting a new water system. And
Oh, God.
I went to Norfolk Southern and they said, you know what? We gave Darlington Township a huge amount of money to progress, to help people move on. So I went to them and you know what they said? I don't know why they told you to come to us. The governor gave us that money, not Norfolk.
We cleared that up.
So, you know, we're stuck. No matter, everyone here has a story and we've heard everybody tell the story, but nobody's listening. Where do we go to find someone that listens to us? I mean, I have
Well, and takes action, not just listens.
True.
It's been a year. It's time to take action.
I haven't spoke up. I've spoken up when I can. Trying to work and deal with everything, the pain you're going through, losing a home, staying in hotels. My job didn't even believe me. I went to them and asked for them for help and they're like, just go in. My uniforms, I had 2 uniforms. I'm going to work every day out of a hotel. They said, go in there and get them and launder them. I can't. They were burnt, they were destroyed because the chemicals in your clothing. So everything that we're doing and everybody here that's telling a story, we need somebody to listen. That's what we thought Biden was going to do when he came. And he didn't listen to anybody, not one of us.
Well, there is an election coming up. I just want to remind you of that.
I get it.
Yeah, but even aside from that, some towns have boards of health that could start to listen to this, that could start to advocate for you.
Well, that's kind of where I was going.
Yeah, and I.
We don't
City
have one.
council. Oh, do you have a city council? Do you?
No,
have mayor?
we have township supervisors that
And he
tell
doesn't
us.
believe anything.
Do you have any elected?
I wonder if Beaver County would have one.
Maybe.
The commissioners don't want to hear it either,
Oh,
so,
no?
yeah,
I
so.
moved out of Beaver County to East Palestine.
All the senators have been MIA
Yeah.
since day one.
You know, we've written to everyone.
Yeah.
We've written to
They are
everyone.
Well, that's why you want, I mean, consider running someone for that office.
We've written to, you know, everybody is.
Exactly, which is why you need someone on your side who's in a position of power.
So this money that was given to the township, I'm gonna whistleblow on them. They,
Go right ahead.
Yeah.
they couldn't help me, they told me to go back to Norfolk, okay? Because they're using this money in a high interest account. They pulled money out of there, gave some to the fire department and some to the police department. And all I'm asking for is the help with the water purification system, so I might possibly get to go back home. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to fight the power when the power is being paid off
Yes.
to serve someone else.
Sure.
And,
Thank you.
and let me just say that it's a really good time to have discussion in the community to help more people have the courage to
Yes.
be able to stand up.
Exactly.
And to challenge power. You know, if power isn't listening, then you gotta challenge power. In the words of Frederick Douglass, you know, the famous abolitionist, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has and it never will. So how can the community make this demand stronger? And some of that is just talking to people and helping people feel like they have the courage to come out with their story, which will help more people. You know, Love Canal and Times Beach and the veterans, you know, the victims of Agent Orange way back in Vietnam, they've all had to fight this battle. This is outrageous that they have to do it, but we can kind of take courage and advice and guidance from how they fought these battles.
I'll stand with any of you.
I'll
Any of
stand.
you
I would
from
contact
Darlington
the champions
Township
of
or
those
Darlington that want to speak out, that are not being heard, see me after this. I will give you my cell phone number. I will stand with you. Trust me, I've been on enough news programs now, I don't care anymore. So, but it's time for.
If you want to organize, we can help. We can find your contact information. Like if somebody contacted
Yeah,
us,
if you
Yes.
put your
have
information
network,
out
you can help
there.
network.
Yeah, I mean, they have focused on East Palestine, and I'm great with that because I know the train derailed over there. We suffered the after effects of the Benton burn in Darlington Township, Darlington proper, South Beaver. And I think that all these people here need to come together and do what East Palestine's doing. And
Well,
Right.
hopefully,
Yeah,
hopefully you do better.
Huh?
Hopefully you do better, but when, in my mind, when I think East Palestine, I incorporate everything.
I understand
And
that, but
I
a
know
lot of
that
people
some
don't.
don't. But
A
what
lot
I
of
wanted,
people
I
don't.
wanted to bounce off of what
Yeah.
Ashley's doing, and then exactly what you said, and kind of what you addressed as well. Initially, they came into town, now I don't know if this was open to Darlington
Oh, yeah,
residents or
we-
not.
they sent me
They
home.
did an ACE survey.
Oh, yeah, we
They
had
told me
that.
I was
So
a
they
Pennsylvania
took- they
person
took
and sent
the
me
Yeah.
health
home.
assessment. All right? Where, excuse my language, where the hell are they now? It's a year later. Shouldn't they be following up 6 months in a year? This shouldn't be left up to us to do what we're doing. We are collateral damage.
Yep.
And America doesn't run on Duncan, it runs on corruption.
That's right.
And that train is full force going and leaving us in the dust.
Absolutely.
They have the ability to come in here, monitor our health symptoms, just touch base. They don't do it. We go to our doctors, you say chemical exposure, la, 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 la. Sinus infection, oh, it's an allergy. They don't wanna hear it. And eventually, it's going to be undeniable, but just like we said, that's gonna be when there's a body count.
We already have it though, and that's, a lot of people aren't seeing that, it's not going in the newspaper.
Right.
It's going to the funeral homes, when we look at these funeral homes.
being
Yeah, so
attributed.
there's quite a few deaths, when we had a 6-month period, it was higher than COVID in a 6-month period. So that right there is saying something is wrong, but it's not going out to the public, we're not seeing it. And I do wanna make a statement, everyone talk. I'm a doctor, I don't have background in this, I just took the initiative to start doing it. I live in East Palestine, and I made a beautiful connection with people before this happened, and an even bigger bond after this happened with people. And like Lori, I did come from Darlington. My mother does still live in Darlington, so I'm gonna help both. But Lori is a great person to reach out to.
Thank you.
If you can't find her, if you can find me, we'll bounce off each other too, because I'm there to help anyone.
Yep.
And what we're seeing with media as well. When you look up my name, you don't find me anywhere. If you look up Ashlyn McCall, East Palestine, you'll find, it's like any resident you're hearing from, if you're interested in their story or interested in reaching out to them, look up their name with East Palestine or Lori from Darlington. So you can actually see what's going on in the stories, because we have mentioned this out on the media, everything like this. It's not getting out there. There's no reason at this point no one should know about the batteries that were burned. There's no reason no one should know that we're having these symptoms right now. And the people in Darlington, I did talk with Scott Smith too, and we were kind of thinking, there's more dioxins out further. Some of these symptoms that I see, and remember, I'm not a doctor, but the symptoms for dioxins line up heavily with people outside of the area where that plume went further.
I've
So
seen
that's
this as far as
something.
Canada, so yeah.
So that's something that I want to try to work with, and if you guys want to participate, if you guys want to share it, I can get those to places. Because once I get this data, people are more inclined to look at it.
The worst thing for dioxins, that smoldering plume went from the 3rd through the 9th,
Right.
even in the middle. That initial derailment, and those are polyvinyl chloride pellets releasing. That's why those buried documents in the fingerprint. And I'm hearing from the expert team, again, one of the meter that you know, exactly what you're saying about the impact into Pennsylvania. And
But
West Virginia too, by the way.
The ACE survey that they put out for Pennsylvania, they put online. Okay, they hand out postcards, which most people didn't even know that that survey took place. Okay, and we brought that up to our township supervisors about going, appoint somebody. Let it be a volunteer. I would have done it. Go to these people and talk to them.
Well, they shut them down in East Palestine.
Yeah,
They shut down
well,
the border.
but we were told, no, the EPA said this, that, and the other thing.
We're good.
Yeah, we're all good.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why, at the end of the day, it's a political problem. We need to
Yes.
fight this politically at
Yes.
every level possible, and that's a question to the community. Where do you have access to some little seat of power? Because that's a place to start, and it might be, if you had a council where you could get someone elected who could be the voice that could take that fight to a higher level.
We're working on that.
You could run.
Yeah.
Dr. Chuck, yeah.
Shout out
My
to Rick.
question
Hey, Jill,
too is,
piggyback off the question you
Yeah.
was asked earlier about like your plan if you was to become president, would that mean like maybe an executive order that could be removed later, like with FEMA, for example, for like emergency evacuation? Like just an idea?
Yes, absolutely. There could be, so I don't know the details on this, but, we're exploring that possibility, that, can the president just say that? I kind of think so. I mean, I think the president can tell FEMA to do whatever the
Right.
president
I
wants.
agree.
So the president could declare a state of emergency and get an evacuation for anyone at risk. And that evacuation lasts as long as, until there is absolutely proven safety.
See, the
Because-
EPA is trying to say it's
But that's
absolutely
safe.
proven
Yeah.
safe. That's
Right.
what that's
Yeah.
their narrative. That is what they've been saying all along. That's why they are telling both communities
Yes.
in Ohio and Pennsylvania,
That's right.
there's nothing to see here. You don't need to
Yep.
look at the data. Your symptoms, they're just coincidental.
Yeah, and that's why you need
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
who's not
We have
representing
allergies
the
in our
industry,
voice.
to
And
make
how
these
would you,
judgments.
how would that get changed? How would we, us,
Yeah.
and there's a small room here, that we should be lined up, that parking lot should be full of people standing there, but it's not.
Yeah.
How do we, a small group of individuals who have daily, we're not elected officials, we're not paid EPA, we're not paid politicians, we have other lives, this is not our job.
Right.
So how do we come together to go up against exactly what Krista said? When they're saying it's fine, it's the federal EPA. How does a little room full of people, residents from Darlington and EPA, or East Palestine, overturn what the
Show up with signs
EPA
every day.
and the narrative that they are pushing? How do we overturn that? I mean, we have Scott, but that's what,
Yes.
how do we
Well,
overturn it?
right. What you're going through is exactly what the other communities have gone through. Because there is a brick wall that you cannot get past right now, doesn't mean that there will be a
And
year
usually,
from now.
but that historically is tied to to the body count.
Exactly,
So we
right.
wait until we die
Well,
to make
you
a
know,
difference, and that's scary.
I would not recommend that you wait, you know? I mean, that's why I'm here, to help get this story out, to help people fight tooth and nail every step of the way, because, because what other choice do we have? You know, it's like you can't give up. You can't give up on this. I mean, this is your life and your health, and it's not just East Palestine, this is America. This is what the future looks like, which is the message that we're trying to bring.
It's definitely not just East Palestine, because we've got over 100,000 tons of soil removed going to other communities. Over 30 million gallons of our water going to other communities. This East Palestine problem is indeed another problem for
I
other
just wanna
communities.
say real quick, Linda, there was another Norfolk Southern derailment this morning that took place. I don't know if anyone was aware of that.
Nope.
Currently, a train derailment into the water in lower, I'm sorry, I don't know. It's in Pennsylvania.
Lower. Osborne Township, VA. Oh, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Bethlehem.
That's not far at all.
We had that Saturday morning.
And Al Shaw just got a raise.
Last week.
Just so you know that.
I just want to say, you guys, too, just to interject, I've interviewed probably about 20 of you already. Use me anytime you want to come on my show, anytime you want to send me information, anytime you want me to make phone calls, I will do it. Trust me, I will. Reach out to me, my card's over there. I will talk to any of you. You guys take precedent always on my channel. Please reach out, even if you want to be anonymous and I could speak about something without using your name. Please, I am absolutely at your service. Please reach out if you ever want to share something.
Yeah, and the name of the game is your fight. I mean, it's like not being submissive, not being cooperative, not being good little boys and girls, and refusing to go home.
Put your hand up, darling. Come on, you tell
Even
your
this lady's story.
It was like Fred or
You're
like
okay, go
everybody
right
else,
ahead.
But I've been to places, like, I don't know if I've met everyone, but Chrissy, for example, served me so many Polar Pops over the years because, like, I was a 20-year-old girl in East Palestine with my husband, and just, like, we would walk down, and then Lonnie is the reason that I'm always inspired. She is the owner of a store that I just loved. I bought my daughter so many Christmas presents, specifically like little crystals and things like that, and things that she sells.
Lonnie had a wonderful
and just
story.
like a wonderful life. And my walk of life, my story, did not begin on February 3rd. It kind of has just been fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have been, and there's so many things that I can go into, and I sound like, you know that like guy from that one show, Philadelphia, so he's like, this is me explaining every person I've come into reach with this whole year. And we moved because the night of was the last night that I spent in that home with my 6-year-old, who was 5 at the time. She was crying so hard. We lived up on one of the highest hills in town. I overlooked the cross from that church over by McDonald's. It overlooked us, the cloud of red. It wasn't just black. The first night it was red and beautiful, breathtaking, literally breathtaking, because I couldn't breathe for days, like days. I was we slept on couches, floors for the first few days, and then hotel, because the night before I opened up my booth at her store, February 2nd was my journey to start, and it was like instead. But I just know that the last time I saw my daughter in our beautiful home was that night, crying, and I was like, grab your favorite thing, we're gonna go somewhere, and she grabbed her puppy and A for Adley doll, and we grabbed our pets, and I grabbed her hair that I just cut off, and photos, and we just left. And the only person, me and my husband did go back in the beginning. He is diabetic, and he needed to go back to get his insulin, and Sunday night, and he came home so sick to his mom's house that night, and I just was like, this is crazy, and like no one would believe that stuff at first. And mind you, we didn't have media for almost a month, it felt like, because I eventually did go back home to collect my things, because right away we decided, are you crazy? Did anyone see the big plume? That lit, the vapors, everything was in our, like in our skin, in our everything. What? Like, so I just couldn't go home. I am so poor now. We have nothing. Like, we have each other. That's literally all. And I remember I made a post in the very beginning, like, very optimistic and positive, and everyone loved that, right? But if I said how I really feel,
Oh boy.
the same people
We get
that
crucified.
You would have a tongue left on your porch.
Yeah, yes, and that's the other thing. Those things are why people don't speak out. I'm one of those people. I have anonymously written, obviously you, so many times, like from the start, you, and just other people that I have written so many anonymous posts, because you know what? That brings me back to something that was popular, horribly popular when I was young, and that was the Steubenville rape case. And I remember Anonymous, and that was because people were, are you kidding? How could you defend a girl that was brutally raped? And like stuff like that. This is how we feel though now, is we were brutally attacked. We were forced out of our homes. The choice was forced on us, because everyone's like, oh, you could have just stayed. I could have, but then I would be sitting here like everyone else, terrified. I'm still terrified, and I moved. So what is the point?
Our property was raped.
Yeah, and
Our property was invaded and taken over, and now it feels dirty.
Yeah, and the
unsafe.
home, that Mayberry feeling everyone talks about, it was there. I would describe East Palestine as, like, I just know I'm a reclusive person. I am autistic, and I go and just, I have a daughter, and she's my only baby girl, and I took so long to have her. I had 4 miscarriages, one being a D&C, before she was even here. Then she was brought into the world, and here's her little, she was 1 pound. And so here I am worried about her life already, and other people's children that I'm like really aware now, like, oh my gosh, moms are just amazing, parents are just amazing. But I'm trying to enjoy my life. Every day we would walk, we would use the resources of East Palestine, my favorite town. I love that town, but now I hate it.
Yes.
I hate
Yeah.
almost every soul that I have. Not you guys are all new,
Mm-hmm.
but like, I'm
It's okay,
We just didn't want to attack our party.
We understand.
But no, for real though, that's what it is.
We
And to
understand.
those people, like, the same old, I've seen in the comments, oh, the same old story from the same old crowd. That's people that I know and loved are saying these things. And
We're
it's like,
broken.
what are you,
Our communities are broken.
and then there's corruption, and then there's like, there's so many other things that you can't even begin to, it's just the trajectory has changed so much, and they have to, they are not being held accountable. I know for a fact I haven't been compensated at all. I also just want to, like, free of it, but then I'm like, here, everything happens for a reason. Well, here we are, it did happen to us in East Palestine. Why? Well, it's up to us to figure it out, I guess. And I guess they want us to be lab rats, and I guess we kind of always been one, I guess. There's magnesium in East Liverpool, and like, I have the most crooked teeth, but guess what? Every time I've been to the dentist, you're healthy. But this last year, my teeth feel like they are coming out of my body. Like, I just know that they are wiggling, and it's not normal. And I have other symptoms. I'm one of those people that just has symptoms, and some of them are psychological. Then you go into that. Here, go see a therapist. The therapist is bought and paid for in our town by the company, and how does that even make sense to people? And at first it's like, oh, well, good for you, you're getting paid for. Like, so all these people say stuff like that, and I can see that perspective, but more than that perspective, I see the bad. There's so many
symptomatic sympathetic symptoms don't lead to loose teeth, and I will let you know that I spoke with the dentist, and he confirmed that there are people from East Palestine coming to him that have come to him for years that are having gum issues, which I'm sure if you've done research, that can very well be a result of what we've been
And then
exposed
it
to.
can internally, like your teeth, that's the weirdest thing. I've
And it
always
will
been.
cause loose teeth.
Yeah, and like it can
My
cause some
23-year-old
other
daughter
things.
spit out a whole molar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Has been on what? She spit out a whole molar.
Oh, wow.
She noticed on a Friday afternoon, wow, my tooth's loose, Mom. And she made butter noodles for dinner, and the entire molar came out roots and all.
Must have been that butter.
Yeah.
Must have been that
Yeah.
butter, yeah.
Well, and then that's the
Yes,
thing, like,
overnight.
I
Like,
remember.
it wasn't even overnight, it was
Yeah, and I just remember like they had us reach out to them. So like, yes, we are going back to a year, because here I am, this is the weekend I spent the last time at that house. This March 1st was the last goodbye, and I never received, like, I was treated in ways that it would be almost like, hey, that's defamation or whatever at this point to other people, but it's the truth. I have past, like, I would never forgive the landlord that I had at the time. I will never forgive the people, some of the people, then there's people that we have met that are just, that is why I love the community. But I'm sorry, but unfortunately most of them are the ones that have been affected and want to leave or have left. And it's hard because it's like my community is literally being shifted out of here, and now there's a new shiny one being created. Because that's the other issue is like no one's really talking about is how much they have inserted themselves into buying out our buildings. The ones that I have dreamed about ask her. I was like, we're gonna have fundraisers, we're gonna do this, we're gonna bring this town back. We were so close to East Palestine, Columbiana, why wouldn't we as a community use those resources and collect? But then the train happened, the bomb happened, and now, yes, people are talking about that, but it's like, that you didn't do that. You didn't do that yourself. This is not your town at that point. Like, you are being bought out, and not in the way you want, and not in the way we deserve.
Right, right.
And then, like, there are people that even have reached out to me, and I feel like I'm a nobody, essentially, because in a group of our entire town, what's almost 5,000, I'm one of those souls. So, and if I feel that way, I'm sure, like, I have other people, and I'm like,
This is what I saw. This is what I saw. Okay. Just here to talk. Hi, I'm Lonnie. We met when you came in. Okay, yes. My name is Lonnie Miller.
She even came to the press release that I did.
My
She's
home
always
is
been
on
there.
East Clark Street in East Palestine. I've lived there for 30 years.
I know.
This year would be 30 years that I've lived there with my husband and my son. My son just turned 21 last year during all of this. What a way to start your young life, an adult life. We were home the night that train derailed, and I'm gonna tell you that weekend, my husband and I, we witnessed hours after the derailment. No regard to us, no regard to our lives. I was told to go to the park, the community center, immediately that Sunday following the derailment. I was told to go there, and they were going to assist us getting a hotel, getting us evacuated from our home. What I was met with that Sunday morning was a Norfolk Southern representative with a clipboard telling me to fill out tax information. No regard, no urgency to get us out of our house immediately. It was fill out this tax form. Bring it back to us with your social security numbers and all your identification information. This is what I was told that weekend. They had no regard for my family's life. They opened that rail line immediately as fast as they could. I know that's what they did.
And we're looking at FOIAs too, so around what she's saying, what they did, they had a pit and it was filled with chemical. So even the EPA knew, and they're emailing back and forth about this. And then journalists start emailing the EPA, now they're passing it, and we're reading it on the FOIA. They did in fact cover that with dirt. Just so that they could get it running again.
Just so they could lay those
That
new
was their
rails. I
intention.
testified.
That was their intention of making it right.
The first.
We as a community had to fight to get them to pull those tracks up.
If it wasn't for the community,
they wouldn't have done it. Yeah,
My family evacuated. We escaped to East Liverpool, Ohio. And during that time, I fought trying to contact as many people as I possibly could. And the one person that responded to me was Senator Douglas Mastriano of Pennsylvania.
That's right. That's right.
And I'm so thankful for that man. He was not a politician first, he was a human first. He cared about my
my family's lives. I testified at that first Senate hearing, the investigative Senate hearing that took place, the very first one here in Pennsylvania, on February 23rd of last year. And I'm gonna tell you, my testimony was going viral. It had over 300,000 views on it. It's social media. Those numbers have been locked in place for a year now. How are we supposed to fight with our voices and our freedom of speech when you're censored heavily on social media? I'm at the point right now, I am so sick and tired. I am so sick and tired.
Social media is being censored in our own community now
It's-
too. They have the
it's-
new websites, and that's one
You
first
can't
thing you
speak out.
notice is all of
Our own mayor, there's a video of our own mayor saying that he has to control the narrative in our village. He admits it on video, saying he has to control the narrative. If everything is fine, why do you have to control the narrative?
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen, Lonnie.
This is what I came back to. Yes, I was running a small business in East Palestine as well. That was my dream. That was my American dream that I waited 20 years for. I gave it all up because people were putting businesses in front of my family's lives. No one ever contacted us at Ground Zero asking how we were doing. No one. In over 6 weeks, no one contacted me. No one contacted any of these residents.
I've been saying that one thing, I know that we can't figure out who would, I know they can do it obviously, but I'm a mom of a young little one, and I know like that for me, putting her into the school system was already like, for every new mom in that world, and I would walk her to school every day and all that stuff, but then they made the decision to use it as a media place, and then I made the decision to withdraw my child from this school.
All of this,
and I was harassed. I do not care what these people
millions
say.
of dollars.
I have
Millions of dollars were being dumped into our community, into the school, into,
Yes, and they
into
were, but they were reaching out to
everything
other
control the
families.
narrative,
Not
to control the narrative, and not help families at Ground Zero that need out from these homes.
I just know they would at least know the children which children had been displaced and for how long, and why didn't they, as a community driven school that they are so proud of, which was what they were, why didn't they help these kids, at least the families with, at least start there and stuff, like, there you go, like, there's so many others.
What are we supposed to do when we're fighting? We're fighting.
And the superintendent knew.
Millions
Oh,
of
he
dollars.
The superintendent told us how many kids they sent down to the nurse that day. And they said kids were having nosebleeds, headaches. My daughter said that she looked around the room, it looked like everyone had pink eye.
My nephew was just telling me the other day, he's only 10 years old, and he said, and he went to East Palestine and then he went back at some point, and now they do not live in town, and he talks about all of the kids would be sick and nosebleeds and stuff, and that they were told to go back to class and all these other things, and
They wouldn't allow them to go
amongst each other, and they weren't all allowed to talk about like the train. And also, there's a track on the football helmet. Like, come on, you guys. Let's go back. This is too easy.
What do you do when your town that you've lived there for 30 years, that you've loved, that you've grown up, and now the people that did this to us, the corporation that did this to us, has just taken over everything. Everything that we've loved about our community is no longer ours. It belongs to them. My family, we took out a 30-year mortgage to start all over again, to get our son away from this. He's 21. I don't want him in that home that he grew up in. And I'm just one story. There are families that are so much closer, but they blew those chemicals up. I'm roughly 1,200 feet away from where they blew that up. We're starting over again, and that's what's created. We are so broken because we have those families that have invested in that community for a lifetime, and we're moving away. So that's broken, you know, our bonds that we've worked our entire lives for in that community, and it's just broken. We are just broken.
They're making an industrial park down here where we live.
Honestly, and that makes sense because, and that's what I've said from the beginning. Whenever you hear the word land grab, people want to think they just want to make us leave. No, they're going to insert Norfolk Southern. They don't care about that. They don't care about us.
My home has been on the market for over 125 days. I have zero
Anybody who wants to sell their home should have a testimony. I don't really have to buy it because I am not selling my home to anybody else. The only time mine was tested was when I got the boss to ask me for those results, and I said, "You're not getting those results until you test my soil too." So guess what? He's never done.
I had to give mine to Norfolk in hopes that I would get an
We're gonna
extension.
be
They
up
could
against
screw
the
me around
wall.
to have them give me my last week on the night where they cut it off.
Yeah.
So I had like half a month. They still had me and they're just screwing me. Now they come to me and want to take through these first two. So now I haven't got that money back. I was waiting to see, you can't not look at the help. We're not gonna have it. And there's no one around here. Help. I put one else like, things don't fit my son in.
When we could have relocated in the beginning, that's why we're here. We're 40, 45 minutes because all of the subcontractors are employees. And then everything ended up deciding that we were already. Talking about the ones that have the chicken eggs. We've already been told to evacuate Saturday night. I'm literally 170 yards. Yeah, that's your daughter.
But you're their house right there on the front. I have to pick up trucks. Yeah, but I guess they're robbing us.
Every
Results back from her. We can't ever look at
Leave this for you, for the media, because you're right here.
Oh, no, they never testified. Hey, folks, anybody that's here in this room, guys, I know you guys are all kind of talking amongst yourselves. For those of you, just really, really quick, 2 seconds of your time. I'm known as Sue Mama. It's nice to meet some of you that I haven't met, and lovely to see a lot of you that I already know. Guys, some of you may know me from last year. Our group came in, we brought around the equivalent of like 5 tractor trailer loads of donated goods for your area for the police, to try and help you guys out. I know that I don't have the solutions or the power to help you guys completely, but we are doing another donation drive for your areas. We are distributing March 23rd. I printed out flyers up here, guys. Social media, as you know, does not like the words East Palestine. It does not like the word Ohio. It does not like the word donation, relief, effort. Please grab these, put them everywhere, send them to everyone you know. Please help us help you guys. March 23rd, we will be back. We're working with the way station. They're keeping, we have a drop ship address. People have been sending stuff in, they're keeping it under lock and key for us till the 23rd. We are going to be driving donations in as well, from what I understand. So please, guys, help us help you. We have a bunch of videos out on our social media too, little 1.5 minute, 2 minute ones. Send them everywhere. They're censoring them, telling me that your medical symptoms and photos is pornography, abuse, and graphic content, and they're censoring it. They're taking it down, and literally the most pornographic thing you saw was someone's knee. Okay, so this is what, and that's TikTok. Okay, so everybody thinks TikTok's so great. No, it's not. That's my most censored platform. If you don't know how to get a hold of us, I have pamphlets here. Explains who I am, where we are, how to get a hold of us. Please take these along, guys, and spread them absolutely everywhere so we can try and help you guys just offset your basic monthly costs, food, water, medicines, cleaning supplies, so you guys can get caught up on everything else.
Will that include Darlington area?
Yeah, so we did like the 5 towns or whatever that we listed, 5 or 6 towns that we did last time. Same thing, you know, we're gonna have everybody come on out, you know, we'll try and, yep.
Very
just like
good, 'cause
before,
I mean,
so-
very good.
So yeah, guys, I just wanted to say that before you guys take off, since everybody's kinda getting to the end of the day. And I love you guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming. And I want to thank the viewers, because of you guys since July, I've been able to raise $14,000 with mutual aid for the community. So thank you so much.
I'll email you.
We were trying to take a picture of the one slide and you were moving it. We're like,
I'm gonna email all this stuff out.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
You guys, we have cases of water outside in Randy's truck.
Good job.
Bye.